Westphalia. The year 1934. A storm screams through the black forests of Germany. Lightning strikes across the sky, illuminating the three razor-sharp towers of an ancient fortress rising from the past. Wewelsburg Castle. Local villagers bow their heads as they pass. They do not fear the stone walls. They fear what is happening inside them. This is no ordinary military headquarters. It is a monastery of darkness. And the leader is not a general. He is a high priest. Welcome to Noir Archive. Step through the heavy stone gates. The air inside is thick with the scent of candle wax, fresh leather, and a metallic tang of death. Under the flickering torchlight, figures in black uniforms move like ghosts. Look into their eyes. There is no soldierly exhaustion. Only the emptiness of those who have surrendered their souls to an evil ideology. On their lapels, the stylized double S symbol like two bolts of lightning. Silver white and cold. On their caps, a skull grins mockingly. Everything here is designed to make you feel small. Narrow corridors, stone walls 3 meters thick. They are swallowing the sounds of the outside world. Why Wewelsburg? Step back to see the full map of the Third Reich. Heinrich Himmler, the chicken farmer turned architect of death, did not choose this place for its strategic location. He chose it for a mad faith. Archival records reveal, Himmler believed Wewelsburg was the axis of the world. He leased this castle for only 1 Reichsmark per year. A symbolic price for the possession of a soul. He wanted to turn this place into the Nazi Camelot. A place where SS generals would sit around a round table, not to discuss tactics, but to perform occult rituals. Himmler didn't just want to build an army. He wanted to build a divine bloodline. A race beyond human. Now, let us go deep into the North Tower. To the place where sunlight has never touched. Welcome to the General's Hall, Obergruppenführersaal. 12 marble columns stand tall like giants holding their breath. And right beneath your feet. Is it? The Black Sun. A green marble circle with 12 lightning bolts radiating from the center. It does not glow with electricity. It glows with obsession. Beneath this room is a crypt. Where the echo of every footstep sounds like the heartbeat of a sleeping monster. Himmler believed, when the Black Sun rises, darkness will shroud the truth, and the Third Reich will endure for 1,000 years through the spiritual power of the Aryan ancestors. But look beyond those occult symbols. These marble stones did not appear by magic. Just a few miles from the castle was the Niederhagen concentration camp. Thousands of human beings were worked to exhaustion just to carve every stone for Himmler's shrine. More than 1,200 lives were laid down at the foot of this castle. Their blood mixed into the mortar to build a fanatic's dream. This is the truth about SS occultism. It was not magic. It was brutality dressed in the cloak of myth. Himmler stood there, at the center of the Black Sun. He was waiting for something. A call from the past. But how could an ordinary man like Himmler develop such megalomaniacal delusions? To understand the rise of the Black Sun, we must go back in time. To the years before he wore the red armband. To the strange dream of a failed chicken farmer. The darkness is calling his name. And in the next chapter, we will answer. Forget the image of a powerful SS chief in a polished black uniform. Let us travel back in time to a small farm on the outskirts of Munich. The smell of chicken manure. The smell of rotting grass. And the sound of crunching footsteps on the soil from a young man with thick, round glasses. He is Heinrich Himmler. A failed chicken farmer. At this moment, he is not holding a gun. He holds a notebook, meticulously recording the diet and breeding of his poultry. But behind those intellectual glasses, a storm is forming. This chicken farmer doesn't just want to purge his flock. He is dreaming of purging all of humanity. Look at his hands. They are not the hands of a warrior. They are the hands of a bureaucrat. Clean, thin, and always holding a pen. Himmler was obsessed with cleanliness. He was obsessed with numbers. He recorded everything, from calorie intake to the smallest guilty thoughts in his diary. This meticulousness was his most terrifying weapon. In Himmler's world, there was no room for chaos. Every chicken, every tree, and later every human must be classified. Purebred or garbage. He looked at chickens and saw the laws of nature. He looked at weak creatures and saw the necessity of destruction to preserve strength. The chicken farmer's dream began to warp from here. Step back to look at Germany in the 1920s. A nation writhing in the humiliation of defeat after World War I. Hyperinflation. Surrounding poverty. Veterans who had lost their purpose wandered the streets. In the shadows of beer halls and secret societies, bizarre theories began to sprout. People began to believe in lost continents like Atlantis, in the magical power of Aryan blood, and in a savior who would bring Germany back to the golden age of the Nordic gods. In the middle of a collapsing society, Himmler's meticulousness and madness found fertile ground. He was no longer a failure. He became part of something larger. Something that promised absolute order in a world of chaos. Himmler didn't just believe in guns and bullets. He believed in plants and ancient symbols. He worshipped natural healing, macrobiotics, and ancient agricultural rituals. He believed that the German people had been contaminated by modern lifestyles and foreign blood. Do you see the contradiction? On one hand, he was a modern bureaucrat with statistical charts. On the other, he was a spiritual fanatic, believing in prophecies and reincarnation. He began to read about ancient German kings, about Germanic sorcerers. He didn't just want to do politics. He wanted to perform a spiritual cleansing on a massive scale. And for Himmler, the SS was the tool to realize that bizarre worldview. Then one day, the chicken farmer met his prophet, Adolf Hitler. Hitler needed a loyalist, someone with absolute organizational ability and a cold heart. Himmler needed a purpose to worship. This combination was the beginning of one of the most terrifying organizations in human history, the Schutzstaffel, the SS. Under Himmler's hand, the SS was not just a bodyguard unit. It became a black order. The selection standards he once applied to his chicken farm were now applied to recruit SS soldiers. Height, eye color, skull shape. Everything had to reach racial perfection. The chicken farm on the outskirts was left behind. But the chicken farmer's mindset remained. Now, he had power. He had an army. And most importantly, he had a place to realize his occult fantasies, Wewelsburg Castle. Secret files from Noir Archive show, from this moment, the boundary between reality and cult in Himmler's mind completely vanished. He was no longer Heinrich Himmler. He was the Dark Lord of the SS. But how could a military organization turn into a secret society dedicated to hunting for ancient treasures and legendary lands? The answer lies in another secret organization that Himmler painstakingly created. An organization named Ahnenerbe. The journey into darkness has only just begun. Imagine a laboratory where pitch-black SS uniforms blend with the robes of archaeologists. On the table are not war maps, but ancient Sanskrit scrolls, fossilized bones, and maps of lost continents. Welcome to Ahnenerbe. Its full name was Ancestral Heritage Research and Teaching Society. But to Heinrich Himmler, this was the Third Reich's spiritual intelligence agency. He didn't just want to occupy land. He wanted to occupy the past. He believed that history as we know it is a lie. And he was willing to send armies across the world to find another truth. A truth about the Aryan gods. Tibet. The year 1938. Wind howls through the eternal snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. A group of men in thick fur coats surrounds a local inhabitant. Look at the hands of Ernst Schaefer, a biologist loyal to the SS. He is not holding a gun. He holds a metal caliper. Cold and precise. He measures the distance between temples, the protrusion of cheekbones, the length of the nose. Why? Because Himmler believed that on the highest peak of this world, the purest bloodlines of Atlantis still remained. In the shadows of ancient monasteries, SS soldiers scoured old manuscripts to find the weapons of the gods. Magical lightning bolts that could destroy an entire army. To them, Tibet was not a land of Buddhism. It was the ruins of a forgotten superhuman empire. Step back to see the scale of this obsession. Ahnenerbe was not just a small group of dreamers. It was a massive machine with over 50 different departments. From research on runes and ancient music, to bizarre physical theories like the world ice theory, Wewelsburg. Himmler believed this universe was created from the collision of fire and ice, and that Aryans were beings born from the purest ice crystals. SS ships docked in Antarctica to find the entrance to the hollow earth. SS archaeologists dug in Greece, France, and even the Russian steppes to find the Holy Grail or the Spear of Destiny. Millions of Reichsmarks were poured into this, while soldiers at the front lacked ammunition. Because in Himmler's mind, one powerful artifact was worth more than 10 armored divisions. Now, return to the laboratory in Berlin. The scent of preservatives is overwhelming. Wooden crates have been sent back from the Eastern Front. Inside is not gold or silver. It is human skulls. They are meticulously labeled, low-grade racial specimen. This is the true face of Ahnenerbe. To prove the hypothesis of Aryan superiority, they needed control specimens. August Herd, an Ahnenerbe doctor, requested the murder of hundreds of concentration camp prisoners just to collect his skull collection. The romance of Atlantis expeditions ended in the crematoriums. Himmler's science was not looking for truth. It was looking for the justification for crime. Why was Himmler so obsessed with Atlantis and ancient gods? The answer lies in a far more sinister plot. He wanted to wipe Christianity out of Germany. To Himmler, Jesus was a weakling. He wanted to replace the Bible with Nordic epics. He wanted to replace Christmas with the winter solstice. By proving Germans were descendants of God-men from Atlantis, Himmler wanted to become a new pope. Every expedition, every artifact found was a brick to build the religion of the SS. A religion where death for the leader was the highest glory, and brutality was a virtue. The expeditions have ended. The reports have been sealed. But what they brought back was not the power of gods, but an evil soul. Now, with evidence in hand, Himmler was ready for the next step. Wewelsburg Castle was waiting. It was time to turn hypotheses into rituals. It was time for the Knights of the Black Order to swear their oaths before the Black Sun. Do you hear the chanting rising from the crypt? In the next chapter, we will step into the heart of darkness, where the most horrifying rituals of the SS took place. The Black Order. The truth is buried under eternal ice. And we have only just begun to dig. Imagine a church. A place where there are no bells, no crosses, and no compassion. A place where the priests wear black uniforms, and the Holy Bible is replaced by blood oaths. Welcome to the Black Order of Heinrich Himmler. To the world, the SS was an elite police force. But behind the closed doors of Wewelsburg, they were pagan knights. Himmler did not just want physical obedience. He wanted to possess their souls. He wanted to create a new nobility, those who no longer feared death, because they believed they were part of an eternal, divine bloodline. Look at the finger of a high-ranking SS officer. A heavy silver ring. Totenkopf ring. The Death's Head ring. Touch it. It is cold and rough. Inside the band, the owner's name and Himmler's signature are engraved. This is not a piece of jewelry. It is a contract with the darkness. Himmler personally presented these rings in the dark cellars of the castle. When an officer died, the ring had to be returned to Wewelsburg to be kept in a sacred chest. Why? Because Himmler believed that the spirit of the warrior still resided within that symbol. Under the dim candlelight, new recruits had to stand before the Black Sun, look Himmler straight in the eye, and swear, "My honor is loyalty." In that moment, the outside world vanished. Family, morality, and conscience were erased. Only orders remained. And death. Step back to see the true ambition of the Black Pope. Himmler hated Christianity. He called it the religion of the weak. He had a long-term plan. After the war ended, the church would be wiped out. Instead, every German home would have an ancestral altar with runes and ancient swords. The SS would be the ones to perform baptisms by fire, weddings under old oak trees, and funerals without prayers. Wewelsburg was the Vatican of this religion. Himmler spent millions of marks to create new holidays based on solar cycles and Nordic legends. He was filling the void of a nation's faith with racial fanaticism. A people no longer kneeling before God, but kneeling before the power of Aryan blood. Now, let's return to the General's Hall. 12 granite columns represent his 12 closest generals. Look at the silent round table in the middle of the hall. Here, Himmler would sit with his 12 knights to perform meditations lasting for hours. No one was allowed to speak. They focused their minds to summon energy from the past, to connect with ancient Germanic warrior spirits. A bizarre sight, those who held the fate of millions, those who operated the world's most brutal killing machine, were sitting silently in the dark seeking prophecies from the void. The combination of Prussian military discipline and superstition created a historical monstrosity. And the one leading the ceremony, with a pale smile on his lips, believed he was controlling the very fate of the universe. But where does this loyalty lead? It does not lead to glory. It leads to mass graves. By turning the SS into a religious order, Himmler removed the last moral barrier of the human being. When you are no longer an individual, but a part of the divine blood, then killing is no longer a crime. It becomes a ritual of purification. The officers wearing those Totenkopfrings were the ones who directly ran the concentration camps. They committed crimes with a terrifying calm, because they believed they were executing the will of the gods. Wewelsburg Castle was not just a meeting place. It was the forge that cast hearts of stone. The ritual has ended. The candles are out. But the darkness from Wewelsburg is beginning to spread across Europe. Himmler had his religion. He had his loyal knights. Now, he needed one last thing to complete his empire. A place to turn racial doctrines into a mass production process. He needed an architecture. Not for living, but for dying. From the mystical rooms of the castle, we will step out into the killing fields, where occultism meets industrial engineering. The architecture of death. The secret of the Black Sunday is about to be exposed under the light of the crematoriums. Look at the drawing on Himmler's desk. It is not a map to find Atlantis. It is a technical blueprint. Straight lines. Numbers precise to the millimeter. This is the architecture of a new type of city. A city without life. A city only for death. Welcome to the SS concentration camp system. If Wewelsburg was the mystical brain, then these places were the butcher's hands. Himmler did not call this murder. He called it racial hygiene. An industrial process to remove what he considered garbage from the great Aryan bloodline. Step inside a room with no windows. Gray concrete walls. On the ceiling are fake shoriads. This is the pinnacle of deception. Look at the heavy steel door. It has a small peephole covered in reinforced glass. There, the SS officers wearing the Totenkopfring will stand and watch. They look at their watches. They take notes in their ledgers like engineers checking a production line. A few meters away are the red-hot brick ovens. Black smoke rises from the chimneys, tainting the air with the smell of burnt flesh and despair. To Himmler, that black smoke was liberation. He believed that each body burned was a step closer to a pure Aryan paradise. Brutality no longer wore the face of a demon. It wore the face of a clean administrative report. Step back to see this horrific connection. The scientists of the Ahnenerbe organization we met in Chapter 3. They are no longer in Tibet. They are here, in labs right next to the crematoriums. Under Himmler's command, they perform insane experiments to prove the superiority of German blood. They measure the endurance of the human body in ice water, in vacuum pressure, and test the latest poisons. Why? Because in the occult worldview of the SS, these prisoners were not human. They were only raw materials to forge the strength of the Aryan Superman. Occultism removed the final moral barriers. When you believe you are executing the will of ancient gods, then exterminating an entire people is just a painful but necessary archaeological task. There is a detail that few people know. Himmler loved nature. He loved flowers and herbs. At the concentration camps, he ordered the construction of beautiful gardens right next to the prison barracks. Look at the mulch in his garden. It is extremely fertile. Why? Because it is mixed with bone ash taken from the crematoriums. The sickness reached its peak, Himmler used death to nourish life. He could sign the execution order for thousands of people while simultaneously writing home to remind his wife to care for the flowers in the garden. To this chicken farmer, the world was a giant farm. And for the Aryan flowers to bloom, he believed he had to use the blood and ash of those he considered weeds as fertilizer. This system expanded relentlessly. From Dachau to Auschwitz, from Treblinka to Sobibor. A dark network covered Europe like the tentacles of an ancient monster. Each train carrying prisoners was a ritual sacrifice to the Black Sunday. Himmler had succeeded in turning his madness into a smoothly operating system. The SS was no longer just an order. They were the managers of death. They collected hair, shoes, glasses, and even the gold teeth of victims to deposit into the empire's treasury. Everything was utilized. Nothing went to waste in Himmler's farm. But when this machine reached its peak capacity, that was when the cracks began to appear. The roar of the crematoriums could not drown out the sound of Allied cannons approaching. Himmler's thousand-year dream began to tremble. Wewelsburg Castle was no longer a place of sacred rituals. It became a lonely fortress in the shadows of defeat. The gods that Himmler summoned did not come to save him. Now, as the truth about the concentration camps began to be exposed, the architect of death had to face something he was never prepared for: judgment. Prepare for the final chapter. When the darkness collapses. When the chicken farmer tries to flee from the ghost of himself. The ghost of Wewelsburg. The black sun is setting. And history will never forget. March, 1945. The sky over Westphalia is no longer lit by the lightning of Thor. It is lit by the fire of Allied shells. At Wewelsburg Castle, the Knights of the Black Order are no longer meditating. They are frantically destroying documents. Himmler, who once vowed to build a 1,000-year empire, now orders his men, level it. Do not let a single stone fall into the hands of the enemy. A massive explosion rocked the Alm Valley. But the 3-meter-thick stone walls of the North Tower stood firm. The black sun on the floor was not destroyed. It was merely buried under the dust of failure. This is the end of a fantasy. An end without glory, only cowardice and darkness. Look at a man trudging through the crowd of refugees on the streets of Wewelsburg. He no longer wears the polished black uniform. He wears tattered civilian clothes. His signature round glasses have been discarded. He wears an eye patch and a cheap fake beard. This is Heinrich Himmler. The man who once controlled a mass-killing machine is now trembling under a fake name, Heinrich Himmler. When captured by the British, he still tried to hide his identity until the last moment. But the truth cannot be hidden. At the moment of discovery, when the doctor asked to check his mouth, crack. A small sound of breaking glass. The bitter almond smell of cyanide spreads. Himmler fell to the floor. No heroic final words. No sacrificial ritual. He died like a coward, refusing to face the judgment of humanity. The architect of death was finally swallowed by death itself. Step back to look at Germany after the smoke cleared. The Third Reich was nothing more than heaps of rubble. Millions of Totenkopfrings were thrown into lake bottoms or melted down. But Himmler's remnants do not disappear so easily. At Wewelsburg, the Black Sun symbol still lies there, silent on the floor of a museum. It has become a geographic scar. A spine-chilling reminder of how far humans can go when led by fanaticism and absolute power. The Ahnenerbe files were seized by the Allies and the Soviets. They found thousands of pages of documents on Tibet expeditions, human experiments, and maps of lost civilizations. The secret of the Black Sun has been decoded, but the obsession with it remains. If you step into Wewelsburg today, even if it's sunny, the air in the General's Hall is always a few degrees colder than outside. Your footsteps echo in the empty space, sounding like the whispers of the thousands of souls who fell in Himmler's camps. They say that on stormy nights, the shadows of the SS Knights still linger around the 12 granite columns. That is not ghosts. It is the presence of history. The ghost of Himmler does not lie in horror stories, but in the mindset of classifying humans, in the brutality committed in the name of racial hygiene. An architecture built with blood can never be washed clean by time. We have traveled through 6 chapters of darkness. From a chicken farmer with megalomaniacal delusions, to pagan rituals at Wewelsburg, and finally to industrial crematoriums. The story of Heinrich Himmler is not just a story of a monster in history. It is a warning. When science is distorted by cults, when loyalty is placed above conscience, and when a human considers himself the Lord of blood and death, the world will be submerged in a nightmare. The Black Sun has burned out, but its ashes still lurk somewhere in the shadows of modern society. Never let them ignite again. The file on Heinrich Himmler officially closes here. Thank you for accompanying Noir Archive on this journey into the heart of darkness. The truth can be brutal, but only the truth helps us avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. I am your guide in the forgotten archives. I will see you in the next files.